This is the Tap In podcast. We are live inside of the Tap In studio via Zoom as well. Thank y'all for tapping in with me. So I got two special guests that's joining me today. One of my special guests you guys may have seen or may have not. Police officer of the Fort Worth Police Department, Miss LaRhonda Young. How are you doing, LaRhonda?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. And then we also got a councilwoman from the Fort Worth City, Kelly Allan Gray, with us as well. How are you doing, Kelly?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank y'all. I want to say thank y'all for taking time out of your Saturdays to join me and tapping in with me. This is like so important to me. I've been going over everything I want to talk about for the last week with you guys. So thank you guys for joining me. Okay. First, I want to, LaRhonda, you've been on, how long have you been with the police department? How were you with the police department?
I was with Fort Worth PD from 2004, from 1992 to 2004, late 2004. So I did 12 and a half years with Fort Worth PD, and I'm currently an educator.
Okay.
I've been in education for the last 13 years, and I'm also the owner of a tutoring service where I employ certified teachers who do one-on-one tutoring with children. And I've owned that business for the last 3 years.
Okay. All right. And then Councilwoman Kelly Ann Gray. I make sure I get that correct. Kelly Allan Gray, excuse me. Now, how long have you been with the city?
So I have served on city council since 2012.
Okay.
I took over an unexpired term, and I served for 9 months, and then I had to run for a full 2-year term starting in 2013.
Oh, okay. Now, is city council, is that the same as councilwoman, city council? That's the same board, or?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me ask both of you guys, how does the police department and the city council, how do they interject, or where do they meet at for anybody?
Kelly, I'm going to let you take that one.
So for us as the mayor and the council, who we are responsible for hiring is the city manager, the city attorney, the city auditor, the city secretary, and I think that's it. I think we have 4 people that we are responsible for hiring. Okay. The city manager then in turn hires the police chief. However, okay, what our role is in that is, so like budgeting, police budgeting, that all comes through the city council via the city manager for us to have a discussion on and to approve. And then when there are just things that are happening in the city, automatically the mayor and the council are pulled into it, because that's just what citizens do. As an elected official, we have that voice to weigh in on things that are happening.
Okay.
So we intersect in a lot of ways. As probably one of the younger council members, very, very active in the community. And so I partner a lot with the police department. I use the police in a much different way than many people probably do. I use them more as collaborators for things that happen in the community.
Okay. And LaRhonda, when you were on the police force, how was the chain of command brought to you guys? The chief goes to your supervisor, and that protocol goes down to you guys, or how does that chain of command work?
Well, the chain of command in the police department, of course, the chief is the highest position. He's over the whole police department. Your lowest ranking supervisor is a sergeant, and all your officers are going to report to sergeants. That's their first ranking supervisor. So anything that an officer needs to deal with as far as discipline or asking for days off, that has to go through their sergeant. From there, it goes up from the sergeant to the lieutenant. The lieutenant oversees the sergeant and everybody under that. Above the lieutenant is the captain. He or she foresees everybody under that. The lieutenant and the sergeant fall under that. and then it goes up to assistant chief or deputy chief, and then your chief. You also have the detective position, which is in between the regular officer with no rank and the sergeant or corporal. That can be a corporal or a detective. That's pretty much the same rank. Now they're just kind of like a in between. If a sergeant is out, they'll usually leave a corporal in charge for officers to kind of lean on until the sergeant is available. But the first ranking supervisor is a sergeant.
Okay. Okay. Because I know a lot of times me is just a regular citizen. When it comes to like voting and things like that, like I don't know what position is the city manager. I had no idea what that job was or what the ranking is. If we want to, as a citizen, want to get rid of the chief of police, how do we go about doing it? How are we using our vote? How are we using our power to actually effectively make change in the community? So thank y'all for giving me that. Also, I wanted to know, like, in when actually as a citizen getting involved in the community, because I know that's one of my goals of 2020. Like I want to get more into either local politics or either in community projects. And as a citizen, I really don't know what that entails or how to even get started or even get involved in like council city meetings to really like infect change within going on what's going on in the community. So Councilwoman Kelly, what would be your what would you say would be the best way to actually get involved in the community? What would be like one of the first steps of getting involved?
So the first things, I want to go back.
Okay.
Because you said a couple of things, so let's talk about it.
Okay.
First of all, in most cities, police chiefs are not elected officials.
Okay.
Sheriffs are elected officials, not police chiefs.
Okay.
And city managers are not elected officials. So and the only person that can fire the city manager is the mayor and the council. Now, the city manager can fire the police chief, but he can't fire the mayor and the council. Only the voters can fire the mayor and the council by their vote and voting us out.
Okay.
So just kind of make everybody understand that, because I don't want what will happen is the people said, well, on the Tapping Podcast show, they said I can vote out the police chief. The police chief is not an elected official.
Okay.
That's not how that works. So let's clear that up.
Yes, please do.
Okay. So what I would say first thing is I would get involved in my neighborhood.
Okay.
Because in most cities where the power is in things that happen at City Hall comes from the communities.
Really?
And it's neighborhood associations, it is civic groups, it's those kinds of groups that come then to city council and talk about their issues. Case in point, so let me give you two examples. I was really new to city council, and there was this ordinance that was coming up about cats, like feral cats. See, you're looking like I'm looking, right? I'm like, cat. And what is a feral cat, right? So the feral cats are those cats that hang out behind your house that, they kill the mice and they not your pet.
Okay.
And you kind of feed them to keep them outdoors, to keep stuff away from your house. And they just free, right?
Okay.
So I had never heard of a feral cat. I just thought they were the alley cats, right? So that's all I knew. So there are all of these emails and there's all of this stuff going back and forth about these cats and this cat ordinance. So being the new person on council, I say, hey, do y'all think we should really have a conversation about cats? These cats before we go out into the council chamber, because I'm getting phone calls and emails and so I think we should talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So they get up there and they say, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, okay, so now you patronizing me, but I think we fixing to have a problem. And really in my mind, I'm thinking, y'all finna have a problem because I'm not with y'all on this foolishness. Somebody needs to be talking about these cats because these people are serious about these cats.
Yeah.
So then the guy ends with, ha, ha, ha. It's like herding cats. is what he said. And they ended it, and everybody kind of laughed. And I thought, this is not going to be good. So
Yeah.
we go out into the council chamber, and there's like 100 people, and I kid you not, because our council chambers holds about 125 people. So there's about 100 people in these black t-shirts with these hearts on it that say, "I love feral cats." I'm like, what the hell? And so everybody is kind of looking. I just look off like, this is
Yeah.
going to be real interesting. And I kid you not, for like an hour and a half, the cat people went in on us. So then they said, we're going to postpone the vote. You think? Because I told y'all that this was not going to go the way you wanted it
Yeah.
to go. And then, so, you know, but that's that part of when people find something that is of importance to them.
Yeah.
They rally around it, and they come and they make their voice heard, and they do it in such a way that all you can do is say, somehow I knew this was going to happen. And
Yeah.
then you have those people who come and scream and holler at you, and you're like, yeah, that's not working for you. That's not gonna
Yeah.
work for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I could see you doing this so differently, and it would have such a different result for you.
Okay. And when it comes to those meetings, like how is the community I guess made aware of those meetings where they can express their opinions?
So for us, with the exception of the month of July, when we take a council break, we meet every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Every
Okay.
Tuesday at 7 p.m., we have a council meeting. And then at 3 p.m. prior to the meeting on Tuesday, I'm sorry, every Tuesday, with the exception of the fifth Tuesday, because then that puts us over the amount of meetings that our charter says we have to have. So we have a governing constitution, each city does as well. So we meet at 3 o'clock for work session to talk about all of the things that's going on in the city. And then at 7 p.m., we have a meeting that is actually open to the public, where there is actually a dialogue on different things that we're voting on. There's a piece, citizens presentation, where you can just come and talk about it. And it has been that way forever. So, and then the fourth Tuesday of the month, we have an early morning meeting at 8:30 a.m. And that meeting is actually put in place for the school kids, because we want the school kids to be able to come and participate in municipal government.
Mm.
And so that, in the evening, that's not always conducive to schools and school buses and things like that. So we have the kids on the fourth Tuesday in the morning.
Okay. And when it comes to like actually you going there and expressing your opinion and then you wanting to see change, how long does that process usually take? Like how long do they get they take care of the feral cats? Like how long does it usually take?
So the feral cat ordinance was put together without any thought for anybody else. Someone just said we need this ordinance and didn't think it through. And then we're going to vote. Y'all are going to vote on it. And the people came and said, that's not how that's going to work. And so they got a 60-day continuance. And so over the course of that 60 days, then there were community meetings and just a conversation, a dialogue about things that needed to be changed in that ordinance, things that needed to be changed, things that needed to be made clearer, things that should have been removed. And then so at the end of 60 days, those 100 people came back with their "I Love Feral Cat" shirts on.
Yeah.
And then they spoke in support of the ordinance, and the ordinance passed. So that's one example. City government, like state government, like county government, like federal government, moves at a snail's pace. It is a Navy ship. So it takes forever to turn that. It is not a speedboat. So don't get it twisted. It ain't moving at lightning speed. It moves a lot better now because we have a mayor, a council, a city manager, and a group of people who understand the importance of things moving much more expeditiously. than it had in times past. Technology has been a huge plus for that as well, because now most things are computerized where everything else was paper.
Mhm.
And I not that I'm knocking any government employee, but the very first thing that most government employees say is no.
Mm.
Can I change that light bulb? No. Not the light bulb is down the light is right in this closet. Can we call facilities and let me get you a ladder and let it get taken care of? The very first thing is no. Then you have to say, well, why can't I change the light bulb? Because you do know the light bulb is out. You know.
Okay. Okay. And I'm sorry, something you said, I don't want to, I just want to point this out. LaRhonda, you guys put on a great seminar this weekend. Is there going to be more of that, LaRhonda? Because the information you guys gave, and correct me if I'm wrong, the name of the seminar was called I'm Not a Threat. Remind me what.
Serve and protect. I'm not a threat.
Okay. Are you guys going to be doing more seminars like that? Because I feel like those kind of seminars are like important for the community when we dealing with the police. And are you guys going to be having more? And how can we get that message out to more people that can be involved in those kind of seminars?
Well, let me say this. Let me be honest about this. Let me be transparent.
Please do.
That kind of came about as kind of like, why don't you do this event? A friend of mine called me and said, my daughter gets an anxiety attack every time she's around the police. If I had not been with her and seen it, I'd have thought she was just talking when she said it. But we were together one day and we came across this police officer and the girl just freaked out. And she was like, and I know you, so why don't you do something, put something on for young people? And so I just threw it out there on Facebook Live one day and said, hey, if I was to do something, would anybody come? Because I haven't done anything in years. So I'm like, if I do it, nobody may not even show up, And the response was almost overwhelming, that people really wanted to hear from police officers and, what they need to do when they come in contact. And Kelly and I got together. We thought it was a good idea to team up, and with her influence, because I'm putting this on her influence, we were able to really get it out there to just about the state of Texas, period. I mean, it went bigger than what I think either of us ever thought it would be. And because we had such a good response, we've talked about maybe doing another one. We don't know when, we don't know how soon, but we do see a need for it. We do understand that people want it. And we're open to it. We're open to doing it.
Okay.
Actually, now what she did not say was on Sunday after the event, we actually had people who were giving us topics.
Yes.
Of what our next thing that we should talk about. Yes. And you think it's a Sunday and you're not going to have people tune in, but we had over 12,000 views,
right,
of people who were watching it. And then even on Monday and Tuesday, I was still getting emails from people saying, thank you. I watched it with my 13-year-old grandson, and I watched it with my daughter, and my husband and I watched it. Thank you. So you're absolutely right. But we have a couple of topics that people have pushed out there.
And I think that for those who didn't get to attend, is just now seeing this, what the seminar was about was actually on a traffic stop, how to actually deal with police officers and engaging them and knowing when your rights are being violated, what you should do, not taking the responsibility away from the police, but just taking ownership of what you can do to actually save your life and be able to fight another day and go about, keep living instead of a lot of us being killed on traffic stops. So the information was like, because I know I get misinformation where I've been told where you don't even got to talk to police. If you just got your driver's license, your insurance, in a plastic bag. You could just hang it out on a window and roll it up, and they got all the information. You don't need to say nothing. Don't roll your window down. Like, I'm like, okay, well, that just makes them even more angry. But it's like, for me, that I was told that to actually not engage in the police and go back and forth with them. All they need is your driver's license, your insurance. You ain't got to say nothing else to them. But I was like, you want to kind of like, because at the end of the day, police officers are just people, right? Mm-hmm. All they are just people. And if you interact with them in a certain way, they should reciprocate that same energy. So you don't want to be overexcited. You don't want to be disrespectful, but you want to be able to come out there. And if they are doing something where it's a little aggressive, or, you know, they just violating your law or your constitutional rights, then there is a protocol, a way to go about that, so you can be able to fight another day. So, like, if for those who did you guys have that on recording somewhere where people could go back and watch it?
Yeah, the City of Fort Worth City Council page, it's there. So people are welcome to go to the City of Fort Worth City Council Facebook page and watch it from beginning to end. And like you said, it was an informative event. It wasn't an event, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, well, you know, it's the police's job to de-escalate. The police should do this, the police should do that. We understand that, and we're not taking anything away from that. However, we also must look at the fact that we also have a responsibility as drivers and citizens. And like you said, if an officer walks up to your car and that officer is being respectful, and you just hand them a bag with your stuff and say, here, and I'm not talking to you. I mean, how would that go over for you?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think we have to take responsibility for our own actions as well. And that's what we wanted to get across, is that there's a way to deal with people, judge people by the content of their character, not the uniform that they're wearing. Because just because there are people in uniform who do the fool, and I'm just going to say it like that, doesn't mean that everyone that approaches you is going to do the fool. So if you judge that person, because they are people, by the way that they have walked up to your car and respectfully said, sir or ma'am, I'm Officer Young. I need to see your driver's license and insurance. The reason I stopped you is because I got you going 55 and a 40. There's nothing to be, you know, combative about. And right. That's what we wanted to get across. Now, if you become combative, you know, and they begin to take it up a level, you know, we wanted you to understand that they are within their right to go to the next level. There are things called resistance. There's something called resistance, and there are levels to that resistance. And we wanted people to understand what those levels are, and when they are acting in a certain way that's viewed as a certain level of resistance, and why they get the response that they may get from police, because they don't know that they're actually resisting. You know, right. I found that a lot of kids will say, hey, I'm calling my mama, you know, right. And the officer is saying, well, you can't use your phone right now for safety reasons. Put your phone down. Let's finish this. And then you can call your mom. No, I'm calling my mama now. Well, you're resisting. So now that officer has to take it up a notch. So that's what we wanted people to understand. And we understand there are officers who get out of line, but we also want you to understand that sometimes you're the problem, and we don't want you to be the problem. So that when you have a complaint, it's valid and you are able to see it through.
Okay. And also, I guess for both of you guys, because I know when I was young, right, I remember going to like the parks, and they were having like community, like block parties and things like that. How can we get back to that? Is that the city's responsibility to kind of maybe fund these kind of programs, or like nonprofit organizations like within the city, or is it on the community kind of to do that on their own? And is there a way that we can collaborate with the two?
I throw great parties.
Oh, okay.
It goes down in my district. Now, here's what everybody will say. My councilwoman likes a good party. My councilwoman is going to have cupcakes, and she's going to have music, and she's going to dance.
Okay.
I don't know what nobody else does, but they will tell you that, and they all mean it. And regardless of their age, their gender, their race, they're going to say, my councilwoman likes a good party. You only have to come spend some time with me to know that I like a good party.
Okay. Okay.
But so for me, that is exactly what I do. So I host, and this has been such a disturbing year that I have been stuck at home because of COVID. Because next weekend we will be hosting a district-wide movie night, and then it would be a big back to school party the next day. Every quarter I host a big town hall, and so it is literally for me all about collaborations and partnerships and bringing people together. But then I have community, my different neighborhood associations, they host different community events where then they go find partners and they put different things on. In Fort Worth we used to have, and we still do, pre-COVID, we had the big Juneteenth festivals, but most of those things were privately done. The city was a partner in them in some type of way. But it still happens. But it's a little different now than when we were younger.
Yeah.
There's a different dynamic to it.
Yeah.
So where the police would kind of be on the periphery when we were younger, now the police are kind of in the middle of it because you just kind of never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I remember my neighborhood, like it used to be a park where probably like every quarter, every 3 months, it used to be a fair and the whole community would come out. Of course you'll have knuckleheads in there, but it was like you have a strong police presence where it was like a family community thing. But I don't see that any law. I don't, and I haven't. I'm from Los Angeles, so I don't see it in Fort Worth. I don't see it in Fort Worth, and it's, to me, not being from Fort Worth, just from the outside looking in, Fort Worth look like it's an all black community, where its minority is African American people, and I don't see no kind of community. I don't see nothing going on, and this is me on the outside looking in. When I look at Dallas and when I look at Fort Worth, it feels like Fort Worth is more of an impoverished city, but it has so much richness in Fort Worth. Like the people in Fort Worth are just genuine. They just good people. But when it comes to a lack of resources or a lack of community where you feel like you are part of something, I feel like a lot of hope is like just being taken out of that city. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, okay, how can we as a community rally together to actually do something in the community and make it more lively and more fun for people, kids to come outside, for you to meet your neighbors. Because I know where I live in Arlington. I've been living there 6 months. I have not met not one neighbor. And I'm thinking, when I used to come, my family is from Fort Worth. So when I used to come to Fort Worth, it was like when I used to go to my aunt's house, she knew everybody on the whole block. And I'm just like, how do we get back to that? And is there a lot of red tape if somebody wanted to do that, to put on something in the city?
No, and we welcome it. We welcome it. So I find it really interesting that's what you're saying, because if I think about Stop Six hosts all different kinds of events, from the MLK Center to Dunbar High School to the Boys and Girls Club to historic Rosedale Park. They host all of these different events. Highland Hills Neighborhood Association, they host, bunches and bunches of events. I think what takes people out of them is kind of one of the things that you said. I drive into my garage and I let the garage door down, and I don't come out again until my garage door goes up and I'm driving away. And so I've never taken the time to learn or to meet my next door neighbor to the left or to the right of me, or even across the street from me. I see maybe the flyer that someone has put on my door. I look at it and think, okay, maybe. And then I don't do the next step.
Yeah.
And the next step is to go to the meeting. The next step is to go next door and meet your neighbor and say, hey, I'm such and such and such, and I've been here a few months, and I just would wanted to introduce myself. We don't do that.
Right.
And we don't do that as Black people. We don't do that as white people. We don't do that as Hispanic people. It's just not one of those things that we do when we move into different neighborhoods. I
Right.
live in the neighborhood that I grew up in. I know every dang on body in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And my neighbors to the left and to the right of me, across the street and beside me, are Hispanic. But what you're not going to do is move into my neighborhood and I not know who you are.
Mm.
So, and one of the things that we do, we pass out cookies on the Christmas Eve. We pass out cookies. We bake cookies for days. It goes, it's the best
Who is
thing
we?
ever.
When you say we,
My
who is we?
family.
Oh,
My
okay.
family. And so we pass out cookies. But so because we pass out cookies, now my neighbors, they bring us salsa. When the grandmama comes from Juarez, she makes tamales. We get tamales. We get Corona. I mean, so that's part that goes back to when you
Not
say
the virus though, right? You're talking about the beer. Okay.
Corona beer,
Okay.
Corona beer, and a little cabrito. That's
Okay.
dope, y'all. For
Okay.
those of y'all who don't know. So, but that's a part of being a part of a community. And if we want people to be involved, we have to get back there.
Yeah.
And that is incumbent upon you and me and each one of us who say, y'all ain't doing nothing, but you really don't know what's going on because
Right.
you just drove into the garage and let the garage door down.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is people don't want to get involved until something bad happens. When the police have done something that they shouldn't have done, or somebody got shot by the police, then everybody wants to come out. But the reality is there's been things going on in the community that none of them have tried to get involved in prior to that incident. If you're not sure what to do, start with your local YMCA. A lot of times they have after school programs. They're doing things in the community. If you just go to the YMCA and ask, hey, what kind of things are y'all doing in the community? I'm trying to get involved. I want to volunteer. I guarantee you they'll have something. If you have a Boys and Girls Club in your area, you can start there. Go to the Boys and Girls Club. Hey, I like to volunteer. What do you guys have going on? What do you do each year for the kids during Christmas or Thanksgiving or during the summer? What do you have? I work in a Title I school, and we have a bus that comes to our school from the Boys and Girls Clubs. Pick those kids up, take them to the Boys and Girls Club. Now, guess what? When they get there, they have to have something for them to do. So either somebody that works there or somebody that's volunteering is going to do something with those kids. That's community work. So you got to start with your community centers, your YMCAs, your Boys and Girls Clubs. If you don't know where to start, those are three of the main places you can start just to find out what's going on in the community before before something bad happens with the police. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And then go to the city council meeting. If you don't want to go, watch it on the cable channel. See what they're talking about. Find out what's going on. And when you approach them, and this is my pet peeve, which is why I will not get into city politics. When you approach them, have your stuff together. Know what you're talking about. And if you don't, be ready to ask questions, but do it in a professional manner. These people have a job to do. They are human. And I'm like this. If you yelling at me every time you speak to me, I tune you out.
Right.
I'm not going to listen to you. I may be looking at you. I may hear everything you saying. But the reality is, in my mind, you can get up out my face until you learn how to talk to me.
Yeah. And I think that's with anybody. Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the reality.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of these people who are going down to the city council meetings with this loud, boisterous attitude, mean, pointing fingers, rather than coming to compromise and listen. Because the reality is you're going to have to compromise.
Right.
You're not going to bully your way into whatever policy you want or whatever statute you think the city needs to come up with. You have got to learn to listen to their side, take your side, put it on the table, and then say, okay, let's sit down and compromise and see how we can meet in the middle. People are not doing that today. People are running down there cussing, fussing, y'all gonna do this, y'all gonna do that. And guess what? You're not in charge, and they ain't gonna do nothing if they don't want to.
Right. And she already said
That's what they need to understand.
Kelly already said they move at a snail's pace, and their first response is say no. So if you come in with the attitude, yeah.
Yes, and that really is I guess my mission that I'm kind of on is to get people to see that there's a way to present your argument and still be respectful and still get the job done. Because the reality is, LaRhonda Young basically had been in hibernation for some years. LaRhonda Young just came out the woodworks to do this event, and bam, she's all over the news. She got the city's WebEx. All these people are signing up. Now you got to ask yourself, y'all been going down to city council for the last few years acting a fool. How come y'all weren't able to do this?
Right.
But they did on Sunday sit on Facebook and throw rocks. You like, really? That's what you got?
So yeah, that's why. Go ahead, Ron. I'm sorry.
So that's what I'm saying. If you learn how to talk to people, because we can disagree and still respect each other.
Absolutely.
And I said this the other day. Disagree and disrespect are two very different things. And some people have got to learn the difference. There are a lot of things I may disagree with the city council, but I respect them as a human being and their position. And when I talk to them, I'm going to talk to them with respect. So that's probably why they don't mind dealing with me, because they know I'm not going to act a fool.
Right.
I'm going to come down there and cut everybody out.
Right. Now, when it comes to the city and economic development, right? Because I don't know if this is your district, Kelly, but over there by Dunbar High School, I see where they shut down the projects and where I know they got a bunch of signs in those empty lots. How can the community participate in that economic development over there? Or do you even know it? Or is that even your district, first of all?
It's not my district, but let me tell you what it is. So that is the Cavill Place projects. And actually, it's not even the city of Fort Worth's property. It is actually owned by Fort Worth Housing Solutions, which is actually the housing authority. So it is a government, it is a federal government entity. It does not belong to the city. Okay. But all across the country, the federal government, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, they are removing, disassembling projects, public housing, for lack of a better word. They are disassembling it. They are doing this program called RAD, and it's like rental assistance. And the thought is to move people out of generational poverty and breaking up pockets and pockets of low-income housing and people living together in lower socioeconomic areas. Being able to spread them out around the city where the schools are better. They're calling them high opportunity areas. So it's about schools, it's about jobs, it's about transportation, it's about housing. And so they have moved people not only from the Cavill Place projects, but also Butler Housing. And Butler Housing is in my district, just outside of downtown. So Butler is a little different because Butler is actually being redeveloped. It's not being redeveloped, but there's a whole plan being put in place. It is going to be rezoned, and it is ultimately going to be sold to a developer to redevelop however they see fit because of the close proximity to downtown and I-35 and all of those things. Okay. So Cavill is a little different in that they have created a revitalization plan. And so they're going to raise Cavill Place, and then they're coming back with apartments, condos, townhouses, single family housing, and then the whole um, economic development piece of businesses and some mixed use and some things there. So both are government properties, but how they are going to be developed are very different.
Okay. And I know you put it in. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then the one thing that you did say, you said, how can the community be involved? Well, the residents, the difference between Butler and Cavill residents who have lived there, many for several generations, will actually, if they choose to, have the ability to come back home. Its home is just going to look different.
Mm-hmm.
So it
So
will be
they're gonna develop them, they're gonna build them up, and then they have opportunity to actually come back and live in those developments.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And to add to that, because a lot of people don't know, and I have to say, Stop Six is in my heart. That's where I'm from. You know, my mother was born and raised there. My grandparents lived there until they died. My great grandmother's house was around the corner from Cavill. I have cousins that grew up in Cavill. So Cavill is, I mean, Stop Six is just where and I didn't even live there. I just spent a lot of time there while my parents were working and going to college. I spent most of my time there, even though we lived in a middle class neighborhood. So Stop Six is just, you know, that's just in my heart. I worked there as a police officer, and I still work there today as a teacher. So one thing I want to say is I have a cousin that is building and refurbishing houses in the Stop Six area right now. So Black people are putting back into that Stop Six area. People that came out of that area are still in that area putting back, even though they don't live there anymore. They're coming back and they're basically rebuilding the neighborhood.
Yeah, because that's
To
what I
make it
want.
look better, so that people that live there will have a sense of self-worth while they're there, you know.
Yeah, because I know I see it. I'm seeing it on the news in a lot of different cities where this regentrification.
Gentrification.
Yes, that's the word. Regentrification is happening all over United States, and I'm just like, why can't the people, the citizens who've been living there for umpteen years, why don't they get to participate in that economic development? Because I feel like with the economic development, that's where you'll see lower crime. You will see lower domestic violent things when you actually be able to, when people actually have money and they actually are being able to use those finances for different things, then you see crime actually drop. But if it's certain people where they don't have resources, they don't have food, or they thinking about where their next meal is going to come from, then that's when you get a lot of crime in that crime area. And I'm just looking like, well, right over here, I see, because I've seen it in Los Angeles where they have moved people out the projects and they have developed this high rise. And now you see Starbucks, you see all these white grocery stores popping up. And then as the people who actually lived there for years that people didn't care about, they just get pushed out. They don't get to participate in that. And that's a part of this systemic racism that people are talking about, where the people like, we'll give you X amount of dollars, 5 cents on a dollar for your house, you know what I mean? Or you'll get a certificate to go move in another projects, but it's way out in the suburbs somewhere, where it's like, this is not where we're from. This is not where we want to live. We like this little area, you know what I mean? It was convenient to us, and we want to participate in some of that economic development that's happening where we grew up, where we have memories at. And I just want to see, is there, I really wanted to know what was the plan on that area, and make sure that the people who are of that community can participate. And if so, how do they participate in the economic development in that area? So I guess you guys both answered that question for me. Yeah. So I just want to make sure, because that's always the important piece. Because I hate to see it where people just getting pushed out of their homes, and then they just like, yo, this is a better area for you. You were like,
I I
I don't want
think
to
a
live
lot
there.
of people are they have misinformation. Like you didn't know that
Mhm.
those people would be able to come back and move back in the area. You didn't know that there's a black construction or carpenter that is building houses in that area, or refurbishing houses in that area that actually came from that area. So when people don't know, of
Yeah.
course, they assume. But I mean, I totally agree that the people in the area need to be able to put back into that area. So Kelly.
So here's my thoughts. So I'm not a fan of gentrification. I'm not a fan of gentrification because gentrification is the first wave of people who come in to a neighborhood and move people out, and that's how you get Starbucks and all of those things. And then property tax values go up, and people are forced out.
Mhm.
um,
Afford it.
and then you use the word regentrification, and regentrification is truthfully a word, because what happens, and you only have to look at Austin, Texas, and East Austin to for this to be such a very true story. So gentrification is that first wave of people.
Okay.
Regentrification is when the next wave of people who come in, who want the high rises, who want 200 and $300,000 condos and townhouses, who now have made the neighborhood even more expensive. So the first wave of people who pushed out the original people can't
Can't
afford
afford
to
it.
live there. So now they have to go find another place to live. It's starting to happen here in Fort Worth, which is so amazing to me. And so in my neighborhood that I live in, my neighborhood is very deceptive. When you ride through the neighborhood, you're like, is that a crack house? And it very well might be a crack house. But next door to the crack house is the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it is the attorney, and next door to the attorney is the teacher, and
Mm-hmm.
on the other side of the crack house is the dentist.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Oh
and
wow.
like LaRhonda said, they were people who grew up in the neighborhood, and they moved away, and now they've come back because either their parents passed away, and so they inherited the house and they redid the house, and or they tore down the house and
Rebuild it.
rebuilt, and built another house, because my neighbor on the street behind us, they own a whole city block of just stuff that they raised and have rebuilt, and it's just amazing. But they grew up in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and so it's very, very deceptive. So we had this developer who came and said, I rode through that neighborhood and there is nothing of value in that neighborhood. I thought, ooh, this is gonna be good, it's gonna go down. I can't wait till y'all get to council, because it is going to go down.
Right.
And so I tried to save him, and I will say I am very protective. And the developers in the city of Fort Worth will say they do not like me, because I am very protective of my neighborhoods. Because in our neighborhoods, we have always been sold wolf tickets,
Mm.
and what someone promised us is not what they actually put
That's
there,
right.
and we have had to carry that burden. You made money off of our neighborhoods, and then you moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And as a person who could have lived anywhere in the city, I chose to come back home. I
Mm.
chose to, my husband is from Stop Six. I met him in Riverside. We moved to Riverside. I wanted to come back home. I wanted to reinvest in the community that invested in me.
Yes.
So this developer, he's doing all of this stuff, and I'm saying, this is not going to be good for you. I'm just telling you. And so he went on this whole smear campaign of me. I don't want to see any improvements in the neighborhood. I didn't want to do any. I thought, oh, this is not going to be good. Never mind that you're talking about me to the people who helped raise me. That's not good for you. But you don't realize that these folks are smarter than you are on any given day. So here he comes with his whole group of people who don't live in the neighborhood to counsel for this zoning. And so we locked and loaded. Like, okay, you're not gonna win. And so he is sinking down this hole. My council colleague throws him a lifeline. Like, you don't want to continue this? He's like, no, I want to go forward tonight. I'm like, cool, let's do it. They're saying they're trying to talk him into it. And he bought up all of this property on the river, on the Trinity River. He faces downtown. And he's just like, those black people, and pretty much that's what he said. Those black people don't know when a good thing is coming their way, and why would they want to be, concerned about what I do in their neighborhood? Okay, well, probably because it's my neighborhood and I'm concerned about it. So ultimately, they talked him into getting a 30-day continuance. And so in his mind, he had won. So there is something about having a bunch of senior citizens who are really, really smart, who understand the power of their vote, who understands how the political process works, all of this. So when we met with him and put him in this room, and they started going down their list of demands, I was like, oh, yeah, I don't have to do nothing. My work here is done.
Yeah.
He started out with, he wanted 130 units. At best now, when it's all said and done, he's going to get 60. Okay, they gave him all of these configurations. He did not know what hit him. He did not see any of this coming. And his idea literally was that he was going to take over our whole neighborhood. Dude is confined to 3 blocks. He is confined to 3. So here again, there's power in communities.
Yes.
And my other point in talking about gentrification is our neighborhoods would not be vulnerable if we didn't leave. We have to be willing to make the reinvestment into our communities. And it starts with us. And so, we all went on about our ways, and we left. And we left our grandmamas there. We left our mamas there. We left our aunties there. We let, crack take over our neighborhoods. We allowed all of that to happen. And then when somebody else sees the value in what we've left behind, we get mad.
Yeah.
But it was ours to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how to change that dynamic of us as a people, because for us as a people, we always think somebody else's water tastes better and it's colder,
right?
Versus how we make our own water taste better and colder.
Okay. Yeah, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And I think that's where my ideal of actually having some kind of function outside party to see that, the neighborhood is a good place to be. You grew up here, everybody is fun, and bringing just that happiness and that joy back to the neighborhoods. Because some people just ain't going to be going to the meetings. You know what I mean? Some people are just the people who just going to turn up and, have fun. But I don't know what the plan is, or what's the what we can do to actually start doing something in the neighborhood. But I just know I want to be involved. Like, I want to get involved in the actual, to see Fort Worth or become profitable, become like, because I don't know if a lot of people don't know, but I used to come to Fort Worth when I was, I think probably like 6th or 7th grade. And I remember it used to be so much fun coming to Fort Worth, because we used to just ride up and down the block. We used to just run up and down the street. We used to walk around the corner to, I think it was like an ABC market or something. It was like a grocery store. And it was like, that's when you could buy stuff on credit. When I got my cousin Shirley, she know everybody in the whole city, and it was like, oh, you Shirley cousin, okay, tell her I'll put it on her tab. And it was just like a sense of community back then that I don't think the kids like get to enjoy that, like really get to see where okay, everything is going on in the neighborhood. You got grandma out there, everybody out there partying. And I mean, that's just kind of what I wanted to see. And of course, my favorite, and I'm kind of walking in or taking on the footsteps of one of my favorite rappers, if y'all know, is Nipsey. He did this to my community where I grew up, where I went to high school, where I seen, and it's like, okay, I live here now with my wife and my kids. So I want to kind of do that same thing within the community where I live now. You know what I mean? And I would love to, if anybody is watching this that's involved in any kind of community projects, you can always email us. Myself, LaRhonda's on Facebook, Kelly Allan, Miss Kelly Allan Gray. I don't know, but I want to get involved. So if anybody's out there, make sure you hit me on tapinpodcast@gmail. I want to get involved in this somehow, some way, because I feel like I think Black people are stronger, when we together, because we have great ideas. You know what I mean? We have great ideas. We have a great sense of just joy and fun in a lot of us. And I would love to see our people just to be able to do that for the community. You know what I mean? So we can kind of stop putting the blame on other people, you know what I mean, for things that we don't like seeing or we don't like doing. And I really want to be a part of that process. If y'all got anything to say, I really want to thank y'all again for coming on and sharing your Saturday with me. I'm not going to hold y'all all day. Thank y'all. A lot of information has been passed. Miss LaRhonda, if you have, where can people get a hold of you if they want to, be a part of your tutoring? What grades do you tutor?
We tutor grades K-8. All of my tutors are Texas certified teachers.
Okay.
Right now, we're doing all of our tutoring virtually because of COVID-19. I don't feel comfortable sending a tutor into homes right now, but normally it would be in-home tutoring. All of our tutoring is one-on-one. It's the teacher and the student. We don't do small groups. And the reason I've done it that way is because you can get small groups in school. I want to offer something that you can't get from school, which is one-on-one tutoring with the Texas certified teacher. You can go to my website, youngscholarliteracy.com, or you can find me on Twitter at youngscholar10, the number 10, youngscholar10, and then there's Facebook, LaRhonda Young. So
okay. And Miss Kelly Allan Gray, what district are you in?
District 8.
District 8. Okay. And how can, if people want to actually, get a hold of you, how do they do that? Or they just have to see you at the council meetings?
No, don't see me at the council meetings. If you see me at the council meetings, I'm virtual. I'm not going back to City Hall till January.
Okay.
So you can follow me on Facebook at Kelly Allan Gray on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Our council office number is 817-392-8808. You can email me at district8@fortworthtexas.gov. It's not hard to find me. And most folks know where I live anyway, so.
I was about to say, if you want to get involved, you got the right person on here. Just hook up with Kelly.
Okay.
When you say you want to host an event, so I was sitting here thinking that COVID done messed up all of my stuff, because literally we host a bike and walk in Kyle Park. It is a 5K, it is a 10K bike ride because our mayor bikes, and then I am a walker, so we do a 5K walk in Kyle Park, and so it would have been the first Saturday in November, but because of COVID, we're not having it. But we bring out all of the sponsors, and we have families, and we bring out bicycles and just talking about health and wellness and having a good time. So I would love to see what that looks like in your mind. And I have some great spots in my district that could host some events.
Okay. Yeah, because I want to get the radio station out here. I want to get them involved in like whatever. Anybody like small businesses, because I know some of them, took a hit with the COVID. So bring out the small businesses, people with, merch and other things, and just make it a community event. So we make it small at first and we build on it. I would love to do that.
So maybe we connect you to Harambe, because Harambe is a 2-day event. Actually, this year they're virtual and they're on Evans Avenue, and they have just what you're talking about. And they have this big, huge stage, and it is like Friday night is blues night, and then Saturday it goes on all day long. So
Okay, and it's free.
I think it's the first weekend in October.
And it's free for the community to come out and enjoy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, let's talk when we get off of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yo, thank y'all for tapping in. Yo, this has been the Tap In Podcast. Miss Kelly Allan, great. Thank you. LaRhonda Young, thank you guys both for, being part of this. Yo, this has been the Tap In Podcast. Holla.